I write down the heading theories of international trade. Theories of international trade. Dividing this theory into two parts. Old theory or old theories, it will start with a Ricardian comparative cost advantage, mainly a Ricardian model. That Ricardian model will be 2 by 2 by 1 model. It will be 2 by 2 by 1 model. It means we will discuss trade between two countries producing two products by using single factor of production, that is labor. So two countries producing two products, but by using only one factor of production, that is labor. So labor will be the only factor of production in that Ricardian model. Then we move to the other major theory is HO model, Heckscher-Ohlin model. Heckscher-Ohlin model is 2 by 2 by 2 model. It will be 2 by 2 by 2 model in the sense, now we discuss trade between home country and foreign country producing two products by using two factor of production. So now we, in addition to labor, say capital is also there. So HO model is basically 2 by 2 by 2 model. This first theory, that is Ricardian model, will highlight that trade is arising mainly due to difference in productivity of labor. यहाँ पे cost different होगा due to difference in productivity, because labor is the only factor. So same labor can produce different quantity in home country, and 1 unit of labor hour in the foreign country is producing different quantity in the foreign country. So trade is arising due to difference in productivity of worker in different countries. HO model का ये कहना है कि trade is arising due to difference in the resource. Countries differ in terms of resource. One country is labor abundant, other country is capital abundant. So country which is labor abundant will have cost advantage in producing labor intensive good, and the country which is capital abundant will have cost advantage in producing capital intensive good. And the logic is simple, the factor which is abundant will be cheaper. So if you are using the cheaper factor intensively, you will have cost advantage in producing that product. So but that model has to be elaborated. There are various parts of the HO model, and there are certain correlates of the HO model also, like factor price equalization theorem or Leontief paradox and so on. So we move from Ricardian model to the HO model, then from HO model to a specific factor model. A specific factor model. That specific factor model is 2 by 2 by 3 model. Factor by, then we start with one factor, move to two factor, then move to three factors. So now three factor could be considered as labor, capital and land. So we may consider one factor as labor, other factor as capital, and third factor as land. And in the specific factor model, if they are home country and foreign country again producing two products, cloth and let us say food, if I say production of cloth is a function of labor used in cloth and capital, and production of food is a function of labor used in food and land, land को T से denote किया, it means capital is specific to cloth, land is specific to cloth. इस मॉडल में और यहाँ पे फर्क क्या हो जाएगा? Here also cloth and food will be produced by using labor and capital. Here also cloth is being produced by using labor and capital, but यहाँ पे labor and capital both can move from one industry to another industry. but here capital is no longer required in the production of food. So capital becomes specific for cloth, and land is not required for cloth. So land becomes specific for food. So one factor is specific. Specific means fixed above. That factor cannot move from one industry to the other industry. But in the HO model, both labor and capital can move from one industry to the another industry. So that will be the main difference between the HO model and the specific factor model. So it will start with the Ricardian model, then we will move to HO model, specific factor, and then fourth will be the standard trade model. The standard trade model. The standard trade model is again using the assumption of HO model. It will be based upon HO model assumption. So it will be again 2 by 2 by 2 model. But this standard trade model will apply the concept of relative supply and relative demand. Main point will be this. By using world relative supply and world relative demand, we will explain trade. And what is the effect of import tariff? What is the effect of export subsidy? Effect of economic growth? Effect of transfer of income? All those things can be explained by using relative supply and relative demand. But if I am using the word relative, relative will actually imply what? How to plot the relative curve. Generally, when we draw the demand and supply curve, what do you write on the axis? We write price and quantity, but this is price and quantity for one good. But if I am saying two product की बात हो रही है, relative supply है, तो price will also become relative. Price of cloth relative to price of food. Quantity will also become relative. That is quantity of cloth relative to quantity of food. So we have to derive relative supply, relative demand, then world equilibrium, and then explain the effect of growth or import tariff or subsidy on that curve. So primarily 4 important theories will be studied in the old categories. All old assume that market is perfectly competitive. All old assume that product is homogeneous. There are large number of firms producing homogeneous product. And under perfect competition, we also know that price will be equal to marginal cost. Price of the product will be equal to the marginal cost of production. One more, then when we move from the old theories to the new theories, new theories assumes that market is imperfectly competitive. That is based upon the assumption that market will be imperfectly competitive, which means it could be oligopoly, it could be monopoly, it could be monopolistic competition. That new trade theory will assume that production is subject to economies of scale. Production is subject to economies of scale. यहाँ पे यार क्या है, कांस्टेंट कॉस्ट है. जब आप कहते हैं परफेक्ट कंपटीशन है, परफेक्ट कंपटीशन इज बेस्ड अपॉन कांस्टेंट रिटर्न्स टू स्केल. बट व्हेन आई से इकोनॉमीज ऑफ स्केल, दिस इकोनॉमीज ऑफ स्केल कैन आल्सो बी डिवाइडेड इनटू 2 पार्ट. वन इज कॉल्ड इंटरनल इकोनॉमीज. आई सेड इकोनॉमीज, दिस इकोनॉमीज की बात नहीं हो रही है. इंटरनल इकोनॉमीज ऑफ स्केल एंड एक्सटर्नल इकोनॉमीज ऑफ स्केल. सो वन रीजन फॉर ट्रेड इज इंटरनल एंड एक्सटर्नल. इसको 2 पार्ट में डिवाइड कर लेंगे. Internal and external. Internal economies of scale and the external economies of scale. Just briefly, just topic को introduce कर रहे हैं. When I say internal, internal means the cost will depend upon the size of firm, and when I say external, it means it will depend upon the size of industry. Just for example, when you refer to the internal economies of scale, then average cost of production is declining. It means remember, market has various firms. There are various firms in the market. You draw average cost for one particular firm, say firm X, तो as that firm produces more quantity from Q1 to Q2, उसका per unit cost क्या हो जाएगा? This is called internal economies of scale. When I refer to external economies of scale, it means cost curve तो वही है, one particular firm is still producing same quantity Q1, फर्म ने प्रोडक्शन चेंज नहीं किया है, बट मार्केट इज कैरेक्टराइज्ड बाय many firms in the market. So due to presence of more firms in the market, costs get reduced. So when costs get reduced, the cost curve will shift downward. This will be referred as, ये external है, external economies shift cost curve downward. Internal economies, you move along the line. This is expansion of one firm, and that is expansion of the entire market. Why it happens, what is the link with trade, we will elaborate both. तो यहाँ पे internal economies of scale है. So when internal economies of scale will be there, as one firm will produce more quantity, the cost will get reduced. But remember, suppose we are referring to a very small country, and that country is not trading, then that small country will produce goods only for the domestic consumption. But that country is a small country, which means production will also be less, because if there is no possibility of trade, you are producing only for the domestic market, and that domestic market size is limited. So you produce a limited quantity. If trade is allowed, then तो market size expand हो गया. You can produce for the domestic as well as for the, and when you produce more, you realize the benefits of internal economies of scale, because your costs get reduced. So that will be the benefit of trade, and that is arising because of internal economies. Similarly, I said external economies depend upon the size of firm. The position of that cost curve will depend upon the size of firm. So if you compare one country, other country, in India, the number of firm in the market is less. In China, the number of firm in market is more for the same product. Then which country will have a lower cost? China. The country where firms are many in number will have a lower average cost. So that country will have the cost advantage. So due to that cost advantage, there will be trade. So trade, remember, whatever points which you have written here, each theory will highlight one important reason for trade. Starting from the Ricardian model, it will say that trade is arising due to difference in productivity. Here, trade is arising due to difference in the resource. Other logic will be provided that trade is arising due to difference in preference. Trade is arising due to internal economies of scale. Trade arises due to external economies of scale. So each model is highlighting one important part of the trade. Why trade arises between two countries. So we are basically explaining the reason for trade. But in all trade theories, we will find something common. Common in the sense, each model will say that trade is arising due to difference in cost. But why costs are different, they are explaining in a different way. But cost is the main reason. So before that trade, prices are different. After that trade, prices tend to converge. So obviously without any trade, if the prices are same, then there is no reason for trade. Trade arises mainly because prices are different before trade. Trade will converge the price. So these are the prominent theories of trade, and preferably you have two important sources for this topic, Salvatore and Krugman. So Paul Krugman, initial chapters for all theories, or alternate you can use also, but preferably Salvatore will be a better source for second section, that is balance of payment and foreign exchange market. For theories, preferably use the Krugman. So I will be referring Krugman for the theories, and for balance of payment section, Salvatore. But there are certain topic here also like the concept of offer curve, etc., well explained in Salvatore. But the questions like inter-industry trade, intra-industry trade, better explained in the Paul Krugman. So we have divided this international into two parts: theories and balance of payment. Now, although we have written the various topics, see this question in 2016 or 17 in fact, question number 29. It says write a short note on gravity model of trade. तो जनरली जब आप क्रुगमैन या साल्वाटोर बिगिन करते हैं, it starts with the main chapter like Ricardian model which explain the Adam Smith theory also, but this gravity model of trade is written in the introductory chapter जो usually skip हो जाता है. That chapter is explain the gravity model of trade. So what is the concept of gravity model? What is the significance of that gravity model? Limitation of that gravity model. So we will start first of all with the gravity model, then we move in continuity, Ricardian, HO model and so on. So first will be the gravity model of trade. इंडियन इकोनॉमिक सर्विस में ये जनरल इकोनॉमिक्स 2 का पार्ट है, ठीक है. दिस पार्ट ऑफ ए जनरल इकोनॉमिक्स 2 पेपर. ये इकोनॉमिक्स 2 इंक्लूड, आई एम रेफरिंग टू दिस सेक्शन, इंटरनेशनल. दिस पार्ट इज ऑल अबाउट theories of trade, and balance of payment is separate part. Balance of payment part is this. So I have divided international into two parts. One is theories and second will be the balance of payment and foreign exchange market. So minor differences, almost 80-90% things are same for both. So क्वेश्चन जब प्रैक्टिस करेंगे तो दोनों के क्वेश्चन को करना है. ग्रेविटी मॉडल ऑफ ट्रेड फर्स्ट. The gravity model, the main argument of the gravity model is that the volume of trade between two countries, suppose if I consider one country as country I or country J, the gravity model say that the value of trade between country I and country J depends upon the size of these two countries, and it also depend upon the distance between these two countries. Greater will be the size means size in terms of GDP. So trade between country I and country J will depend upon the size of GDP of these two countries. Why trade between China and US is more? Large GDP. But why? How large GDP results into higher trade? Large GDP also means more income. When you have more of income, your spending is also more. Spending on what? Spending on goods, but it is not only the domestic goods that you buy. You buy domestic goods as well as foreign goods. So with more income, your spending is more. With more spending, some spending is on the foreign goods also. So your spending on foreign goods is also more because of more income. So larger is the size of countries, greater will be the trade. And less will be the distance between countries, greater will be the trade. So the trade depends upon size of the economies and also depend upon the distance between the countries. उसे equation के format में लिखा गया है. A is a constant number, yi is GDP of country I and yj is GDP of country J, and it varies inversely with distance between country I and country J. It is called gravity model because of the analogy that you derive from the law of gravitation. ठीक है, तो law of gravitation से basically you are applying that concept, but what is the significance of this argument? Gravity model का significance क्या होगा? It says that trade between two countries varies inversely with the distance. It varies inversely with the distance. So less will be the distance, more will be the trade. So can we explain the emergence of regional block on the basis of gravity model? Why some regional block will emerge? A regional block emerges because distance is less. So it is always better to trade more with your neighboring countries, more in the region. But what is the drawback side of it? Drawback side is that the gravity model is not explaining in detail what is the reason for trade. Why trade arises between two countries. Reasons are explained in the Ricardian model, reasons are explained in the HO model, reasons are explained in the new trade theories. So the gravity model is simply stating the empirical fact that the trade between two countries depend upon the size of economies, and it also depend upon the distance. It varies inversely with the distance, and it varies directly with the size of the economies, without explaining the reason for it. So you have to explain in short. Just write down the main idea of the model part first, then use the equation. The gravity model of trade, the gravity model of trade, the gravity model of trade relates trade between any two countries, relates trade between any two countries to the size of economies, and also with distance between two economies, distance between two economies. There is strong empirical relationship. There is strong empirical relationship between size of country's economy, and the value of both its export and import, and the value of both its export and import, value of both its export and import. Next paragraph. Looking at the world trade as a whole, looking at the world trade as a whole, looking at the world trade as a whole, economists have found an equation, economists have found an equation that predicts the value of trade, between two countries more accurately, between two countries more accurately. Equation is this: trade between country I and J, this is the value of trade, is A yi yj upon dij. Therefore, keeping other things constant, value of trade between two countries, value of trade between two countries, value of trade between two countries is proportional to product of two countries GDP, product of two countries GDP, and it diminishes with distance between two countries. It diminishes with distance between two countries. The above equation is known as gravity model of trade. Gravity model of trade. So the reason for gravity model, is similar to Newton's law of gravity, Newton's law of gravity. So just as gravitational attraction, gravitational attraction between any two object, is proportional to product of their mass, and diminishes with distance, proportional to the product of their mass and diminishes with distance. After comma, similarly, trade between two countries is proportional to product of their GDP, and it diminishes with distance, Next paragraph. The reasoning is that higher GDP represent higher income, and higher spending. Full stop. In an open economy, more spending also means more purchase of foreign goods. more spending also means more purchase of foreign goods. Therefore, with higher GDP, there will be more exchange of goods. There will be more exchange of goods. More exchange of goods, resulting into more trade. Resulting into more trade. So, to just give that reason why higher GDP imply more trade. Another reason, next paragraph में, another reason for higher trade, another reason for higher trade is less distance between two countries. Is less distance between two countries. Is less distance between two countries. With less distance, there will be low transportation cost. With less distance, there will be low transportation cost. Low transportation cost. Next paragraph. Economists often estimate a more general model of the following form. Economists often estimate a more general model of the following form. फॉर में क्या करना है, इक्वेशन एक्चुअल में ये एम्पेरिकल स्टडीज़ के बेसिस पे जस्ट अप्लाई अ पैरामीटर ए हियर बी एट डी में सी. मतलब जो एम्पेरिकल स्टडीज़ इट इज़ नॉट एग्जैक्टली, मतलब उसको मैथमेटिकली नहीं समझना है. इट इज़ बेसिकली द प्रोडक्ट ऑफ दिस टू. सो टू फिट द एम्पेरिकल डेटा राइट इन, अगर आप नहीं भी लिखते सिर्फ पहला इक्वेशन में लिखोगे इवन देन इट इज़ ओके, नो प्रॉब्लम. But recently it has been identified to be in that form. That means you attach a certain degree of, it is not just the product. Suppose you apply that power half, तो उसका मतलब हमने उसको अंडर रूट ले लिया फिर. So it is not that the overall size will determine, a degree of proportionality will get reduced. So a more general model has been explained. Below that it simply talks about the trade, value of trade between two countries. So if I say that the trade between country India and US, तो ये वैल्यू ऑफ ट्रेड हो गया. नाउ किस कंट्री का जीडीपी ग्रेटर है? ऑब्वियसली यूएस हैज अ ग्रेटर जीडीपी. तो अगर आप उसका जीडीपी ग्रेटर होगा तो ऑब्वियसली दैट कंट्री विल बी बेसिकली स्पेंडिंग मोर. So if that country is spending more, that means we will be exporting more to that country as compared to the other country. So trade का मतलब यहाँ पे actual में we are generally assuming that two countries are similar, but the country could be a very large or it could be a very small country also. But small country के लिए भी वहाँ पे जो trade के value है between two countries will be more. So even a small country trade more with the larger country. China will have a greater linkages with even for the small countries also. ठीक है, तो there are various other reasons also, but the value of the trade between two countries is basically determined by the product of the GDP. So product of GDP, it is not only one GDP of one country. Next paragraph में. This model have implications for emergence of regional bloc. This model have implications for emergence of regional bloc. regional bloc, which support the idea that value of trade increases as distance between two countries decreases. So there is empirical support for gravity model. There is empirical support for gravity model. There is empirical or real life data is supporting that. Empirical support for gravity model. Also we find that trade between China and USA is more. China and USA is more because of large size of these two economies. Next paragraph. However, gravity model has its limitation. It fails to explain the basis for international trade. It fails to explain the basis of international trade and also the pattern of trade. Pattern of trade means if we are explaining trade between two different countries, then China will export which product? It simply says the value of trade is higher. कौन सा प्रोडक्ट कौन कंट्री एक्सपोर्ट कर रहा है उसकी बात इस मॉडल में नहीं हो रही है. फॉर दैट पर्पस यू हैव टू वेट फॉर द एचओ मॉडल, फॉर द रिकार्डियन मॉडल एंड सो ऑन. It is not explaining which product will be exported, which product will be imported. It simply says there is a greater value of the trade without explaining the pattern of trade. In addition, trade is also determined by some other factors. Which are not covered in gravity model. So it is not basically explaining the pattern of trade. It is not also explaining the other reasons that trade may be arising due to difference in preference. So it simply say that the trade between two countries depend upon the size of two countries and the distance between. It varies directly with the size and inversely with the distance. But you need some specific answer. मतलब इस तरीके के क्वेश्चन जब मिलते हैं, you need around 150 words में when you have to write. You have to write best preferably from the book. तो book के अंदर जो content है वो आपने basically लिख रखा है. But you need that exactness. What does gravity model imply? What is the implication of that gravity model? And what are the certain limitation of that model? And also explain the reason that why trade between two countries having more GDP will be more. Mainly because more income implies more spending, and in an open economy more spending also means more spending on foreign goods. Therefore there will be more trade between two countries having greater GDP. So this was question in 2017. तो आप वहाँ मार्क कर दीजिएगा, ये पास्ट ईयर क्वेश्चन में 2017 में था, ऑप्शनल में. A Ricardian model of comparative cost advantage. A Ricardian model of trade. First thing is that it is 2 by 2 by 1 model. So here we will be explaining trade between home country and foreign country. If you are reading Salvatore, it is nation 1, nation 2. So two countries producing two products, you can call it good 1, good 2, or just name it. Suppose these two countries are producing two products, cheese and wine, or cloth and food. Anyway, by using one factor of production, and that factor is labor. Trade between two countries producing two products by using one factor of production, that is labor. Trade between two countries producing two products by using one factor of production, that is labor. So labor is the only factor of production. So cost will be determined in terms of the labor cost, because labor is the only factor of production. So all your costs will be explained in terms of the labor. Now how to explain that cost for this model? Suppose just consider we are referring to, अभी ट्रेड की बात नहीं हो रही है, suppose we are referring to home country. Home country has certain endowment of labor. Suppose home country has 2400 hour of labor. Now question is, in that 2400 hour of labor, how many quantity of cheese and how many unit of wine can be produced by this country? Labor is the only resource. By using that resource, you can produce either cheese or you can produce only you can produce wine. But question is how much quantity? That depends upon productivity of labor. So if I write this term as A L C, C आप रेट करो चीज़ के लिए, L लेबर के लिए. A is unit labor requirement. Unit labor requirement to produce cheese in home country. For example, if I write 4 hour, it means to produce 1 unit of cheese in home country, it will take 4 hours. So in the 2400 hour, how many unit can be produced? तो 600 का पॉइंट एक्चुअल में आप यहाँ मार्क कर देते हो. ये 600 कैलकुलेट कैसे हुआ है? 600 कैलकुलेट हो गया डिवाइडिंग L विथ ALC. सो दैट इंटरसेप्ट इज L अपॉन ALC. इफ आई राइट ALW, तो ALW को क्या पढ़ना है? यूनिट लेबर रिक्वायरमेंट टू प्रोड्यूस वाइन इन होम कंट्री. सो इफ इट इज रिटन एज 6 hour, it means to produce 1 unit of wine in home country, it will take 6 hours. So how many unit of wine can be produced? 400. So you have to intercept. When you join these two, this will be called as the production possibility frontier of home country. Why it is straight line, I will explain. But in one factor model, it will be a straight line. So this is your production possibility curve. Can you write equation for that line? Line का अगर equation लिखना हो तो equation could be written as ALC. ALC क्या मेजर कर रहा है? एक यूनिट को प्रोड्यूस करने में कितना टाइम लगता है? If I multiply it by quantity of cheese, so that means this is the total time allocated for cheese. Similarly, ALW multiplied by quantity of W, that will be the time for wine. If you add both, that is the total time. So this value must be less than or equal to what? L. less than means inside the line, equal to on the line. So this is the equation for production possibility curve, and what will be the slope of that line? That is slope of production possibility frontier. मैथमेटिकली निकाल भी सकते हो आप यहाँ से, अदरवाइज आप उसको नंबर जो लिखे हैं उसमें परपेंडिकुलर बाय बेस भी कर सकते हो. 400 बाई 600 हो जाएगा, और वैसे ये ALC बाई ALW है, माइनस साइन आई एम इग्नोरिंग दिस. ALC अपॉन ALW, so that ALC upon ALW is what? 4 by 6, that is 2 by 3. लाइन का स्लोप क्या होगा? 400 अपॉन 600, 2 by 3 है. क्वेश्चन ये बनता है कि व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ दिस स्लोप. स्लोप मेजर क्या करता है? स्लोप ऑफ प्रोडक्शन पॉसिबिलिटी कर्व इज 2/3. सो व्हाट डज दिस वैल्यू कैलकुलेट? दिस वैल्यू कैलकुलेट अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट. This value calculate opportunity cost. Opportunity cost of what? Opportunity cost of that product which you will write on x axis. अपने एग्जाम्पल में आपने जो भी लिखा हो. So this is measuring the opportunity cost of cheese. So if I say opportunity cost of cheese is 2/3, how to interpret this number? Opportunity cost of cheese is 2 by 3. It means what?
2 by 3 units of wine.
To produce one extra unit of cheese, economy will have to give up 2 by 3 unit of wine. Opportunity cost is always stated in terms of the other use that you sacrifice. So opportunity cost of cheese in terms of wine, opportunity cost of wine in terms of cheese. So 2/3 opportunity cost of cheese, 2/3 means to produce one extra unit of cheese you have to give up 2 by 3 unit of wine. उसको नंबर से जस्टिफाई करो, उसका मतलब क्या है? इफ़ यू वांट टू प्रोड्यूस वन एक्स्ट्रा यूनिट ऑफ चीज, हाउ मच टाइम इट विल टेक? टू प्रोड्यूस वन एक्स्ट्रा यूनिट ऑफ चीज, हाउ मच टाइम इट विल टेक? 4 hours. What is the alternate use of that 4 hours? Producing wine, but in 4 hours how many units can be produced? 2 by 3, because it takes 6 hours to produce 1 unit. So in 4 hours you can produce 2 by 3. So opportunity cost of cheese is ALC by ALW. So what will be the opportunity cost for wine? Just inverse of that. मतलब अगर हमने चीज़ का कैलकुलेट कर लिया, उसका इन्वर्स कर लेंगे तो किसके लिए आ जाएगा? वाइन के लिए कैलकुलेट हो जाएगा. सिमिलरली वी कैन कैलकुलेट इट फॉर, दिस इज कैलकुलेशन फॉर होम कंट्री. सिमिलरली यू कैन कैलकुलेट इट फॉर फॉरेन कंट्री. तो जब होम कंट्री फॉरेन कंट्री दोनों का कैलकुलेट करेंगे, रिमेंबर इन बोथ कंट्री प्रोडक्टिविटी विल नॉट रिमेन सेम. तो अगर प्रोडक्टिविटी डिफरेंट होगी तो अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट डिफरेंट आएगा. वो ALC बाय ALW की वैल्यू दोनों कंट्री की आइडेंटिकल नहीं है. सो फॉर फॉरेन कंट्री व्हाट यू विल से, फॉर फॉरेन कंट्री यू विल जस्ट राइट द सेम नंबर ALC अपॉन ALW और वहाँ पे स्टार मार्क कर देना. मतलब जहाँ जहाँ स्टार मार्क करेंगे वो किसके लिए कैलकुलेट कर रहे हैं? फॉर द फॉरेन कंट्री. सो यू कैलकुलेट ALC बाय ALW फॉर होम कंट्री, you calculate ALC by ALW for the foreign country. Once you calculate ALC by ALW, calculate ALC star by ALW star. Now this could be less, this could be more, maybe equal, all three possibility there. पहली possibility है, इसका मतलब left hand side is opportunity cost of cheese in home country. So first equation means that opportunity cost of producing cheese in home country is less. तो चीज़ को प्रोड्यूस करने का अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट जिस कंट्री में कम होगा, दैट कंट्री विल हैव comparative cost advantage, and that country will have cost advantage means that country will specialize in that product, produce that product, sell it abroad. That means that product will be exported. Country will be producing only that product. That means home country will produce only cheese. But remember, home country can produce only cheese, but as a consumer, country will consume both the goods. So how it is possible that you are producing only cheese but you are consuming both? Only when you exchange cheese for wine. So that will determine the pattern of trade. Second condition, if second condition holds, then It means opportunity cost of cheese is less in the foreign country. So foreign country will have cost advantage in cheese. So in that case foreign country will be specializing. And if the third condition holds, so opportunity cost between both countries are identical, trade is no longer beneficial. There is no benefit from trade now. Trade will arise only when opportunity costs are different. So this idea has to be explained formally in the model. So just write down the main idea of the Ricardian model first, then we can explain it in terms of the equation. So just write down the main idea of the model part first. Comparative cost advantage theory. Comparative cost advantage theory. Comparative cost advantage theory has been formulated by Ricardo. Comparative cost advantage theory. Comparative cost advantage theory has been formulated by Ricardo. This model of international trade, this model of international trade, this model of international trade is referred as 2 by 2 by 1 model. 2 by 2 by 1 model. 2 by 2 by 1 model. So no need to elaborate that. 2 means we are referring to two countries producing two products by using one factor of production. According to this theory, a country has comparative advantage. According to this theory, a country has comparative advantage. A country has comparative advantage in producing a good, if opportunity cost of producing that good, if opportunity cost of producing that good in terms of other good is lower in that country, as compared to other country, underline the last sentence. According to this theory, a country has comparative advantage in producing a good if opportunity cost of producing that good in terms of other good is lower in that country as compared to other country. So this approach in which international trade is arising, this approach in which international trade is arising due to difference between productivity of labor, is known as Ricardian model of trade. नेक्स्ट पे आप in this model production possibility frontier PPF, in this model PPF is a straight line. PPF is a straight line due to PPF is a straight line due to constant opportunity cost. PPF is a straight line due to constant opportunity cost. Underline that. PPF is a straight line due to constant opportunity cost. नहीं, ये वन फैक्टर जब कभी होगा किसी भी मॉडल के अंदर, इफ वी फाइंड ओनली वन फैक्टर देन द लाइन विल बिकम स्ट्रेट. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल व्हेन वी स्टडी द वेलफेयर इकोनॉमिक्स, तो वहाँ प्रोडक्शन पॉसिबिलिटी कर्व कॉनकेव बनाया था, बट दैट वाज अ 2x2 मॉडल. So that 2x2 is part of HO model. So in the HO model it will become, because if you calculate it mathematically, what happens, that slope is coming out to be 2/3. So 2/3 is a constant number. So it means there will be a constant slope. Constant slope means line will be straight. If you draw it concave, so slope at every point will be different. So there must be some reason for it. The reason could be that two product may be produced with different technology. एक labor intensive और एक, यहाँ पे labor intensive capital intensive की बात नहीं हो रही है. You can produce more of cheese only when you sacrifice wine, because to produce cheese you need labor, and labor can be withdrawn only from other industry. So in the Ricardian model, slope of production possibility curve is constant. That means it will be a straight line. Slope of PPF measures, slope of PPF measures opportunity cost. Slope of PPF measures opportunity cost. Slope of PPF measures opportunity cost. That is cost of one good, cost of one good in terms of other good. Cost of one good in terms of other good. And it is measured by, and it is measured by, it is measured by a ratio of, it is measured by ratio of unit labor requirement. It is measured by ratio of unit labor requirement. Ratio of unit labor requirement. For example, if unit labor requirement for cheese, if unit labor requirement for cheese, if unit labor requirement for cheese in home country, if unit labor requirement for cheese in home country is ALC, and unit labor requirement for wine is ALW, and unit labor requirement for wine is ALW, then slope of PPF will be, ALC by LW. Slope of PPF will be ALC by ALW. तो एग्जाम्पल के लिए बेसिकली लिख दिया, जैसे होम कंट्री का लिखेंगे वैसे ही फॉरेन कंट्री का ड्रॉ करोगे. नाउ वन additional point here is, suppose if I give you two different number, one for the home country and for foreign country. If unit labor requirement for home country is 6 hours and for the same commodity in the foreign country it is 4 hours, तो सिर्फ चीज़ के लिए अगर रेफर कर रहे हैं तो विच कंट्री विल हैव कॉस्ट एडवांटेज. ये यूनिट लेबर रिक्वायरमेंट है, मतलब एक यूनिट को प्रोड्यूस करने में 6 आवर होम कंट्री में लगेगा, 4 आवर फॉरेन कंट्री में लगता है. तो दैट मीन्स फॉरेन कंट्री कैन प्रोड्यूस in less time. So foreign country has absolute advantage. ये absolute advantage है because we are referring only one product. चीज़ को रेफर किया. If you draw ALW in home country is 4 hour and ALW in foreign country is 1 hour. So when you compare for wine also, you find that foreign country has absolute cost advantage. Absolute में हम सिर्फ एक प्रोडक्ट को कंपेयर कर रहे हैं. तो in this example, foreign country has absolute advantage in both product. So can trade take place? Can trade take place? Based upon absolute cost advantage, it cannot. But if you apply the Ricardian principle, it is still beneficial, because Ricardian principle is based upon comparative cost advantage, not absolute cost advantage, and comparative measure is measured by the opportunity cost. So you can say that ALC upon ALW, that will be here 6/4 1.5. और फॉरेन कंट्री के लिए अगर कंपेयर करेंगे तो फॉरेन कंट्री में ये हो गया ALC स्टार अपॉन ALW स्टार, तो दैट विल बी 4:1. तो फॉर द अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट ऑफ चीज इज लेस इन विच कंट्री? Opportunity cost of cheese is less in the home country, so home country has comparative cost advantage in producing cheese. But the moment you will take inverse of it, then it will measure the opportunity cost for wine. तो जब आप इन्वर्स कर लेंगे तो यहाँ नंबर क्या हो जाएगा 4/6 और यहाँ वैल्यू क्या हो जाएगी 1/4 हो जाएगा, फिर इनइक्वालिटी बदल जाएगी. तो अगर चीज़ के लिए होम कंट्री में एडवांटेज था तो वाइन के लिए फॉरेन कंट्री में एडवांटेज हो जाएगा. तो ऑल्दो ट्रेड वाज नॉट पॉसिबल ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ absolute cost advantage, but trade is still beneficial for both the countries when you explain trade on the basis of comparative cost advantage given by Ricardian model. In that way, Ricardian model is superior over the Adam Smith concept of absolute cost advantage. At that point first. Even when countries may have absolute cost advantage, even when countries may have absolute cost advantage in producing both good, even when countries may have absolute cost advantage in producing both good, after comma country will have comparative cost advantage, in only one line of production, in that sense a Ricardian model overcomes the limitation of absolute cost advantage theory given by Adam Smith. Absolute cost advantage theory given by Adam Smith. So if any number is being given, so you can explain the pattern of trade. Pattern of trade is basically determined by comparing opportunity cost of one with the opportunity cost of the other. Like for example, if you are reading that chapter in the Krugman, it says that for the home country, information is given as a ALC and ALW. Suppose it was written as 4 hour and 6 hour. For foreign country, if it is ALC and ALW, if you take the inverse, 6 hour कर दिया और 4 hour कर लिया. So what is the pattern of trade here? Pattern means which country will export which product and import which product. So from there we can calculate what? The pattern of trade. Suppose both countries are endowed with same amount of labor hour. L और L स्टार दोनों की वैल्यू सेम है. प्रोडक्टिविटी का फ़र्क है सर. तो प्रोडक्टिविटी का अगर फ़र्क होगा तो आप होम कंट्री के लिए पीपीएफ बना लोगे, फॉरेन कंट्री का पीपीएफ ड्रॉ कर लिया. होम कंट्री का इंटरसेप्ट क्या हो जाएगा? अभी लिखा था जो वैल्यू 400 और 600, तो यहाँ पे क्या आ जाएगा? यहाँ पे 600 और 400 की वैल्यू आ जाएगी. फॉरेन कंट्री के लिए इट विल बी 400 and 600 and here it will be 600 and 400. एक्सेस पे चीज़ लिखा. दोनों कंट्री के लिए क्या निकाल लेना है फिर? स्लोप कैलकुलेट कर लोगे. स्लोप इज ए 2/3 and here slope is 3/2 and slope will measure the opportunity cost. तो अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट कैलकुलेट कर लिया तो जस्ट यू हैव टू प्लॉट एन अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट टेबल. तो दैट विल बी द अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट फॉर होम कंट्री एंड फॉरेन कंट्री. तो आपने होम क्लॉथ के लिए, सॉरी चीज़ और वाइन के लिए, चीज़ और वाइन का निकालना है मुझे अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट फॉर होम कंट्री एंड फॉरेन कंट्री. तो होम कंट्री में क्या लिखेंगे? 2/3 और फॉरेन कंट्री में 3/2 और यहाँ क्या हो जाएगा? ये 3/2 और 2/3 हो जाएगा. आफ्टर दैट यू हैव टू फोकस ऑन वन प्रोडक्ट. जस्ट फोकस ऑन चीज़. सो फॉर चीज़ अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट इज लेस इन विच कंट्री? तो होम कंट्री विल स्पेशलाइज इन चीज़ एंड एक्सपोर्ट चीज़. फॉर वाइन अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट इज लेस इन, so foreign country will specialize and export wine. Home country export cheese in exchange for wine. Foreign country export wine in exchange for cheese. Inter industry trade है ये, pattern of trade. So trade is guided by the difference in opportunity cost. There is no such trend to calculate it numerically, but one question in 2014. Let's see a question. नंबर 51. ठीक है, वैल्यू देखना सब. दिस क्वेश्चन बेसिकली से दैट एक्सप्लेन द कंडीशन अंडर विच कंप्लीट स्पेशलाइजेशन विल बी पॉसिबल फॉर टू कंट्रीज. जस्ट लीव दैट फर्स्ट पार्ट राइट नाउ. सपोज प्रोडक्टिविटी पर यूनिट ऑफ लेबर फॉर टू नेशन इंडिया एंड यूके आर गिवन एज. इंडिया और यूके के लिए वीट और क्लॉथ, वीट और क्लॉथ के लिए इंफॉर्मेशन गिवन है. सो वेट केजी पर मैन आवर और यहाँ पे क्लॉथ पर मैन आवर. इट इज़ 4 and 2 and 6 and 3 फॉर इंडिया and US. इज दिस नंबर दैट सेम ALC और ALW? What is ALC? Unit labor requirement. So that was 4 hour, 6 hour. That means to produce 1 unit, it will take how much time? And here what is given? How much output can be produced in 1 hour. So it is not that same number, it is inverse of that. उसका opposite है ये. So it is written as how many kg of wheat per, that means in 1 hour how many kg of wheat can be produced in India and in UK. And similarly for the cloth. So it is not the same number. So if it is not the same number, you cannot apply the same concept. उसी concept पे apply नहीं करना. Will mutually beneficial trade is possible for two nations? इफ यस एक्सप्लेन वेदर स्पेशलाइजेशन शैल बी कंप्लीट और नॉट। तो पहली बात, इस इंफॉर्मेशन को आप पीपीएफ में प्लॉट कर सकते हो। जैसे जब इस इंफॉर्मेशन को अगर मुझे पीपीएफ के अंदर प्लॉट करना होगा तो हाउ टू प्लॉट इट अंडर द अकॉर्डिंग इन द पीपीएफ, होम कंट्री का ड्रॉ कर लेंगे और नाउ इट इज यू आर फ्री टू राइट एनी प्रोडक्ट ऑन एक्स एक्सेस, उससे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं होना है। इफ़ आई टेक बट जनरली जस्ट मेक अ हैबिट कि जो पहला इन्फॉर्मेशन लिखा होगा उसको एक्सेस पे डाल देना, बाद में जो लिखेंगे वो एक्सेस पे डाल दिया। तो फर्स्ट इंफॉर्मेशन फॉर वीट और वर्टिकल एक्सेस पे ले लेंगे क्लॉथ एंड क्लॉथ, लेफ्ट साइड फॉर इंडिया और फॉर यूके। ठीक है, तो फर्स्ट इंफॉर्मेशन 6 and 3, तो वीट का प्रोडक्शन इंडिया 6 और 4 अदर 6 and 4, तो 6 and 4 कैन सिंपली राइट हियर वीट के केस में 6 और यहाँ 4। मतलब मान लेते हैं कि सपोज दे हैव 1 hour, सो इन 1 hour व्हाट इज द अल्टरनेट यूज, यू कैन प्रोड्यूस आइदर 6 यूनिट ऑफ वीट और 4 यूनिट ऑफ क्लॉथ, और दूसरे में 3 और 2 लेना है। तो 3 और 2 अगर सेकंड में ले रहे हैं तो यहाँ पे वैल्यू 3 और 2 की आ जाएगी। दिस इज 3 and 2, सो व्हाट विल बी द स्लोप हियर, स्लोप यहाँ भी 2/3 आ जाएगा और यहाँ भी 2/3 हो गया। स्लोप इक्वल मीन्स स्लोप इक्वल मीन्स अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट सेम। जब अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट सेम हो गया तो ट्रेड इज नॉट बेनिफिशियल, they can trade but it is not beneficial to them. Trade will benefit only when opportunity costs are different. तो आपको बस वो ध्यान से प्लॉट कर देना है यहाँ पे। We will answer the first part of question after completing it. Complete specialization का मतलब एक्चुअल में क्या होता है, what is complete? Complete means you produce only one product. Incomplete means you are actually producing both but more of one and less of the other. But in the Ricardian model there will be complete specialization, means you will produce either only cheese or only wine. So this model has to be elaborated in fact more. yes, वहाँ पे रेफरेंस के लिए 2014 का क्वेश्चन मार्क कर लो, या फिर आप वहाँ पे जस्ट शॉर्ट में टेबल ड्रॉ कर ले। फॉर इंडियन इकॉनमी एंड फॉर यूके वीट पर मैन आवर 6.3, ठीक है, इंडिया और यूके के लिए। करेक्शन कर दे रहा हूँ, दिस इंफॉर्मेशन हियर इज फॉर इंडिया, 6.3 पढ़ेंगे फॉर यूके। क्वेश्चन मार्क कर लोगे, पास्ट ईयर के क्वेश्चन में 2014 का है। Just write one line below that. In this example, opportunity cost of production, in this example opportunity cost of production is same. Opportunity cost of production is same in both countries. Opportunity cost of production is same in both countries. So trade is not beneficial. So trade is not beneficial. Opportunity cost is same in both countries, so trade is not beneficial. Now come back to the basic part again. Now so far what we have explained, again we are referring to the home country. In home country there is a given production possibility curve, and that is repenting some quantity of cheese and wine that can be produced. आप पहले ये बताओगे कि what home country will do, what is happening within the home country. Home country has only one factor of production, labor. Labor can be used to produce cheese, labor can be used to produce wine. Which product country will actually produce? Which country, I am not referring to trade here, foreign country का कोई information नहीं दिया मैंने. आपको सिर्फ ये डिसाइड करना है कि होम कंट्री के अंदर क्या हो रहा है अभी. होम कंट्री कैन प्रोड्यूस चीज एंड वाइन बोथ बाय यूजिंग लेबर. लेबर जिस डायरेक्शन में मूव करेगा कंट्री विल बी प्रोड्यूसिंग दैट प्रोडक्ट. बट इन विच सेक्टर लेबर विल प्रेफर टू मूव? दैट सेक्टर विच विल पे मोर वेज. नाउ क्वेश्चन इज what determine the wage in cheese and what determine the wage in wine. So labor can move to produce cheese or labor can move to produce wine. That will depend upon wage in cheese and wage in wine. Now question is, what is wage in cheese sector? I said all old theories assume that market is perfectly competitive. Under perfect competition, wages paid to the worker will be according to their marginal product. Worker को जो payment मिलेगा that will be according to their marginal product. So wage is equal to marginal product, but marginal product is basically in physical term. We pay wage in monetary term. तो marginal product की value. So wage is equal to value of marginal product, and value of marginal product means marginal product multiplied by price of the product. So which product you are referring? Cheese. So price of cheese multiplied by marginal product of labor in cheese. अब ये बताएंगे what is the marginal product of labor in cheese? What is marginal product of labor in cheese? If I say that ALC is 4 hour, then what is marginal product of labor in cheese? It's not 4. 4 is unit labor requirement. To produce 1 unit of cheese you take, and what is the meaning of marginal product? Marginal product will measure how many quantity you can produce in 1 hour. So if you take 4 hours to produce 1 unit in 1 hour, 1 by 4. 1 by 4 means 1 upon ALC. So marginal product of labor is which number? 1 upon ALC. So you can write price of cheese multiplied by 1 upon ALC. Meaning clear hai? Just repeat. ALC is unit labor requirement. That means it denote how much time it will take to produce 1 unit. And when I say marginal product of labor, it means how much quantity can be produced in 1 hour. So if ALC is 4 hours, then marginal product of labor will be 1 upon ALC. Marginal product of labor will be 1 upon ALC. So wage in cheese will be, in that case you can say PC upon ALC. Cheese sector में जो wage होगा that will be PC upon ALC. Clear? Similarly, what will be the wage in wine? Same argument लगाओगे आप. Means wage here will be again equal to what? VMP. VMP will be price of wine into marginal product of labor. And marginal product of labor will be 1 upon ALW. So this will become PW upon ALW. This is wage in cheese, this is wage in wine. ठीक है? Wage in cheese sector and wage in wine sector you have determined. So this is following the assumption that we are studying old theory. Old theory assume perfect competition, and under perfect competition workers wage is equal to VMP. Now we can visualize various conditions here. If number 1, if I say that PC upon ALC is greater than PW upon ALW, it means what? This number is greater as compared to this number. It means this is wage in the cheese. So that condition implies that wages in cheese is more as compared to wages in. So all labor will move to country will produce only cheese. Country will produce only cheese. But this condition could be also written as, ध्यान देना यहाँ पे, PC upon PW is greater than ALC upon ALW. In that case, country produces only cheese. Country produces only cheese. So when country will produce only cheese? When PC by PW is greater than which number? What is this ALC by LW? ALC by LW is nothing but opportunity cost. And PC by PW को क्या पढ़ेंगे? What is PC by PW? PC by PW is relative price of cheese. Relative हो जाएगा वो वैल्यू, रेशियो है. तो country will produce cheese when relative price of cheese is greater than opportunity cost of producing cheese. An economy will produce only cheese only when relative price of that good is greater than the opportunity cost of producing that commodity. ठीक है? So this is one possibility. This is basically one possibility. What will happen in the opposite case? In the opposite case, country will produce. In the opposite case, country will produce only wine. Country can produce only cheese or only wine only when there is trade. If there is trade, you can produce only cheese, export the surplus cheese and get wine. But if country is not trading, then isolated है country. Isolated होने पे तो country must produce both goods. But when country can produce both goods? Country can produce both goods only when worker will go to produce both goods. When worker will go to produce both goods? Only when the wages in both are same. Same means this number must be equal to this value, which means PC by PW is equal to what? ALC by LW. So if whenever I say that there is no trade or without trade, so without trade country must produce both goods on its own. That can happen only when PC by PW is equal to which number? ALC by ALW. This PC by PW is called in that case as autarky price. Autarky means country in isolation, not trading with any other country. Autarky is country in isolation. So without trade, PC by PW equal to ALC by LW in home country. Similarly, there will be in, if this is happening in the home country, similarly we can follow in the foreign country. तो foreign country का भी PC by PW किसके बराबर होगा? ALC star by ALW star. This is without trade, remember. This is without trade. So without trade in home country, PC by PW equal to ALC by LW. In foreign country it is ALC star by LW star. क्या ये दोनों नंबर सेम है? Whether these two numbers are same? No, they are different. Opportunity cost is different in different countries. तो अगर ये नंबर डिफरेंट है तो फिर PC by PW होम कंट्री का और PC by PW फॉरेन कंट्री का भी क्या है? डिफरेंट हो गया. सो विदाउट ट्रेड, बिफोर ट्रेड वी कैन से दैट PC upon PW in home country. Suppose for example, if I say that this value is less and PC upon PW in foreign country is more. मतलब मैंने एक्चुअल में क्या assumption लिया है? अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट होम कंट्री का कम है और फॉरेन कंट्री में तो फिर होम कंट्री का प्राइस कम होगा, फॉरेन कंट्री में प्राइस. व्हाट विल हैपन आफ्टर ट्रेड एंड व्हाट विल बी द ट्रेड हियर? What is the pattern of trade now? In home country without trade PC by PW is less. In foreign country PC by PW is. So if trade will open, then home country producer of cheese will prefer to sell their cheese in the foreign country because they will get more price. So home country will start exporting cheese. Home country will start exporting cheese. But as home country will export cheese, supply of cheese in home country will get reduced and price of cheese will start rising. As home country will export cheese, supply of cheese in foreign country will increase. Price of cheese in foreign country will start declining, in home country it will start, and that change will continue till prices becomes same after trade. So trade converges the price. Trade arises because prices were different before trade. Due to that trade, after trade price in both country will become same. Before trade they were different, but trade will always equalize the price. Trade will always converge the price. So you have to explain basically that idea. So that idea has to be explained by using this concept. So we will start from this, then we move to this part. So start from the first part. I will come to this. First explain this. PPF can only determine what an economy can produce. PPF can only determine what an economy can produce. What an economy can produce. Full stop. To determine what economy will actually produce. To determine what economy will actually produce. To determine what economy will actually produce, we need to know relative price of goods. We need to know relative price of goods. Full stop. In a competitive market, that is perfect competition market. In a competitive market with only one factor of production, in a competitive market with only one factor of production, that is labor, only one factor of production, that is labor, wages will be equal to VMP. Wages will be equal to VMP. Wages will be equal to VMP. In the absence of trade, country must produce both goods. In the absence of trade, country must produce both goods on its own. Country must produce both goods on its own. For that purpose it is required. That relative price of good. For that purpose it is required that relative price of goods must be equal to opportunity cost. Must be equal to opportunity cost of producing that good. Opportunity cost of producing that good. However, in the presence of trade, country may produce, in the presence of trade, country may produce only one product. Country may produce only one product if relative price of that product, is greater than, opportunity cost of producing that good, For example, you can make in points. For example, number 1, if, referring to this term now, for example, if relative price of cheese is greater than, opportunity cost of producing cheese, then country will produce only cheese. Because it also imply that wage in cheese sector is more. It also implies that wage in cheese sector is more as compared to wine. That PC upon ALC is nothing but wage in cheese. Wage in cheese sector is more than wage in wine. Second, if relative price of cheese in home country is less, then home country will produce only wine. Next paragraph. Since opportunity costs are different, in different countries, so before trade, relative price will also be different. Relative price will also be different. But after trade, relative price will converge. Relative price will converge. और एक्चुअल में कन्वर्जेंस कहाँ पे होगा? दोनों कंट्री का जो अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट है, जो गैप होगा, इट विल लाई समवेयर इन बिटवीन. इट विल बी इंक्रीजिंग हियर and declining there. So it will converge. Before trade they were different. but after trade price will converge somewhere in between. But what will be the level at which they will converge? That will be determined by the equality of relative supply and relative demand, and that is not a relative supply in home, it is determined by relative supply in the world, relative demand in the world, then world equilibrium will be determined. So next paragraph is for that determination of world price. Determination of equilibrium relative price, determination of equilibrium relative price, determination of equilibrium relative price can be explained by using world relative supply and world relative demand, by using world relative supply and world relative demand, world relative supply and world relative demand. So when equilibrium relative price get determined, when equilibrium relative price get determined, when equilibrium relative price get determined, then we can determine the pattern of trade, then we can determine the pattern of trade, then we can determine the pattern of trade. So a country will specialize, in that line of production, a country will specialize in that line of production, a country will specialize in that line of production in which relative price will be greater, in which relative price will be greater than opportunity cost of producing that good. Relative price will be greater than opportunity cost of producing that good. Opportunity cost of producing that good. Underline that line. Remember, what we are explaining here is using the relative supply and relative demand. So you can write relative quantity, a cloth के लिए quantity produce of cloth in home plus in foreign divided by quantity of wine in home and in foreign. तो ये वर्ल्ड का relative quantity हो गया. And on axis we write वर्ल्ड रिलेटिव प्राइस पीसी बाई पीडब्ल्यू. नोट में कुछ पॉइंट में लिख रहा हूँ, दिस विल हेल्प टू एक्सप्लेन. सपोज फॉर एग्जांपल ALC अपॉन ALW, ALC upon ALW, that is opportunity cost in home. Similarly we have opportunity cost in the foreign country. एक्चुअल में इनइक्वालिटी कोई भी हो सकती है. ALC by LW can be greater or it can be less. I am taking a specific case, this value is greater. ठीक है, ओके. ग्रेटर ले रखा है तो ऑब्वियसली जो ALC by LW की वैल्यू होगी वो ऊपर मार्क करेंगे, ALC अपॉन ALW की वैल्यू यानी लोअर मार्क करेंगे. मतलब मैंने एक स्पेसिफिक एग्जांपल लिया है कि अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट ऑफ चीज़ इज लेस इन होम कंट्री एंड मोर इन दी फॉरेन कंट्री. तो मैं उस नंबर को बस यहाँ मार्क कर रहा हूँ. सपोज एक नंबर 2 है, एक नंबर 4 है, एनी नंबर. सो यू कैन राइट इट हेयर एज ALC स्टार बाई ALW स्टार एंड हेयर इट इज ALC अपॉन ALW. ठीक है, वी हैव टेकन अ स्पेसिफिक एग्जांपल. तो प्राइस विल सेटल समवेयर इन बिटवीन. वी आर बेसिकली डिटरमाइनिंग वेयर इट विल सेटल, इन बिटवीन तो होना है, बट कहाँ पे वैल्यू आगे, दैट विल बी डिटरमाइंड बाय द इक्वालिटी ऑफ वर्ल्ड रिलेटिव डिमांड एंड वर्ल्ड रिलेटिव सप्लाई. नाउ फोकस ऑन द सप्लाई पार्ट फर्स्ट. सप्लाई पार्ट को जब फोकस करते हैं तो वी हैव टू फॉलो दिस आर्गुमेंट. आर्गुमेंट बेसिकली नोट में ये था कि इफ़, जो कंडीशन अभी लिखे थे हमने, पी सी बाय पी डब्ल्यू इज greater than ALC by LW, then country will produce which commodity? In that case only cheese होगा. और B point, if PC by PW is less as compared to ALC by LW, in that case country will produce only wine. Just keep that in mind. एक्सप्लेन ये करना, ग्राफ यहाँ बनाना पहले, बट वो रेफरेंस जस्ट आई एम कीपिंग ऑन द सेम फ्रेम जस्ट टू कंपेयर. सपोज आई से पी सी बाई पी डब्ल्यू इज इन दिस रेंज, एक एक करके ऊपर बढ़ना है. सपोज पी सी बाई पी डब्ल्यू इज लेस देन ए एल सी बाई एल डब्ल्यू, दैट मीन्स आई एम रेफरिंग टू दिस रेंज. देन व्हाट विल बी द रिलेटिव सप्लाई? अप्लाई दैट. I said PC by PW less, तो PC by PW less का मतलब only wine in the home country, only wine in the foreign country. Because if it is less than ALC by LW, automatically it is less than ALC star by LW star also. So country will produce only wine. If country produces only wine, quantity of cheese will be 0. So what is the relative number? Numerator 0 है, entire value will be 0. 0 अपॉन दैट टर्म. तो 0 का मतलब हो गया हमने इसको एक्सेस से कॉन्साइड करा दिया. रिलेटिव क्वांटिटी 0 है अभी. इफ इट इज इक्वल टू दिस नंबर देन व्हाट विल हैपन? आई डिस्कस दिस रेंज. कंसिडर इक्वालिटी. इक्वालिटी मीन्स PC by PW is equal to ALC by LW, but that number is less than ALC star by LW star. So foreign country will still produce only wine, but home country can produce cheese and wine both. But वो तभी होगा जब PC by PW की वैल्यू एग्जैक्टली इस नंबर के बराबर हो. तो इफ़ होम कंट्री स्टिल प्रोड्यूसेस ओनली वाइन, तो पॉइंट यही रह जाएगा. इफ़ होम कंट्री प्रोड्यूसेस ओनली चीज़, हाउ मच क्वांटिटी ऑफ चीज़ इट कैन प्रोड्यूस? मैक्सिमम. कंट्री के पास इन्फाइनाइट रिसोर्सेज नहीं होते. कंट्री कैन प्रोड्यूस हाउ मच क्वांटिटी ऑफ चीज़? मैक्सिमम. कोई भी पॉइंट अगर आप ड्रॉ करते हो, ये पॉइंट कैसे निकाला था हमने? ये पॉइंट निकाला था L अपॉन ALC कर दिया था. ठीक है, तो L अपॉन ALC मतलब वो हमारा मैक्सिमम क्वांटिटी हो जाएगा जो डिटरमाइन कर सकते हैं. तो ये पॉइंट जो वहाँ पे मैं एंड कर रहा हूँ, उसका मतलब हो गया वो नंबर डिटरमाइन करेगा L अपॉन ALC. इन बिटवीन अब ये लाइन यहाँ पे हॉरिजॉन्टल है. दिस लाइन इज हॉरिजॉन्टल इम्प्लाइंग व्हाट? दिस इज द रिलेटिव सप्लाई कर्व इफ प्राइस इज इक्वल टू दिस वैल्यू. Consider any number in between. What will happen? Any number in between. If it is any number in between, it means it is greater than this value and less than the above value. Greater होने पे home country will produce only cheese, foreign country will produce only. तो only cheese और only wine का पॉइंट तो यही है. तो अब क्या करना है, इन दोनों पॉइंट के बीच आपको लाइन वर्टिकल कर देनी. होम कंट्री विल कंटिन्यू टू प्रोड्यूस ओनली चीज, फॉरेन कंट्री विल कंटिन्यू टू प्रोड्यूस ओनली वाइन. व्हाट विल हैपन इफ इट इज इक्वल टू दिस नंबर? जैसे यहाँ पे हो रहा था वैसे वहाँ भी हो जाएगा. नाउ इवन फॉरेन कंट्री कैन प्रोड्यूस चीज. तो अगेन दिस लाइन विल बिकम, दिस इज एक्चुअली द वर्ल्ड रिलेटिव supply curve. Supply is determined by the production. Now you can place the demand curve anywhere. If I draw the demand curve passing through these 2 points, if relative demand curve is positioned here, so we can say the equality will determine the relative price. This will be the actual relative price which has been determined. So if price is determined at this level, what is the pattern of trade? वो बताना आप. Earlier we were discussing the possibilities. Now this is the actual point.
One country, this one.
जो actual price relative price है, that relative price is coming out to be greater than ALC by LW, and this price is less than ALC star by LW star. तो जहाँ पे greater होगा, that country will produce only cheese, और जहाँ less होगा, that country will produce only. So home country produce only cheese, export cheese. Foreign country produce only wine, export wine, and that will be the pattern of trade. Price get converged somewhere in between. Price will be converged somewhere in between. So no need to elaborate that diagram. If the question comes by using the relative supply relative demand curve, then you must know why you have drawn relative supply curve in a step like manner. So there is the reason for that drawing a step like manner relative supply curve, but price will be determined somewhere in between. But it also highlight, if I say that home country produces only cheese, foreign country produces only wine, it refers to complete specialization. There will be complete specialization when you produce only one product. So in this example, home country produces only cheese, foreign country produces only wine, therefore it is a case of complete specialization. Just briefly explain this diagram. ड्रॉ कर लेना पहले, जस्ट स्टेप लाइक मैनर में ड्रॉ कर लेना, एनीवेयर किसी भी जगह नंबर मार्क कर. As shown in above diagram, as shown in above diagram, as shown in above diagram, world equilibrium relative price, world equilibrium relative price, world equilibrium relative price get determined, world equilibrium relative price get determined by equality of, get determined by equality of, world equilibrium relative price get determined by equality of world relative supply, world relative supply and world relative demand, and world relative demand. We must note that usually it will get determined between the opportunity cost, between the opportunity cost of cheese, in different countries, in this example, home country completely specializes in cheese, home country completely specializes in cheese, home country completely specializes in cheese, and foreign country completely specializes in wine. Foreign country completely specializes in wine. Completely specializes in wine. Therefore, the pattern of trade is that. Therefore, the pattern of trade is that. Pattern of trade is that home country export cheese. Home country export cheese in exchange for wine. Home country export cheese in exchange for wine. And foreign country export wine. Foreign country export wine. Foreign country export wine in exchange for cheese. In exchange for cheese. Now, जो मॉडल है वो कह रहा है कि ट्रेड इज अराइजिंग ड्यू टू डिफरेंस इन द अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट और अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट आर डिटरमाइंड बाय दीज नंबर्स विच इज ALC by ALW. But why ALC by ALW in home country is less and in foreign country it is more? Not explained by the model. Model simply assumes that productivity different है. क्यों different है उसका reason? It is simply said trade is arising due to difference in the productivity without going in detail and explaining why productivity are different in the different country. It simply assume that. Therefore, Ricardian model is not explaining in detail why costs are different. It simply say that costs are different due to difference in productivity, but why productivity are different not explained. That will be better explained by the HO model. So add that paragraph also. The Ricardian model simply assumes that the Ricardian model simply assumes that a Ricardian model simply assumes that trade is arising due to difference in productivity. Trade is arising due to difference in productivity. Trade is arising due to difference in productivity. But it fails to explain the reason. It fails to explain the reason behind. It fails to explain the reason behind difference in productivity of worker. Difference in productivity of worker. Difference in productivity of worker. So model can be explained by using this part. Now, although we say that the model is a 2 by 2 by 1 model. So 2 by 2 by 1 model means we are explaining trade between home and foreign, producing two products, cheese and wine, by using only one factor labor. When you are explaining concept by taking only two products, then it is easy to determine opportunity cost of cheese. Opportunity cost of cheese will be in terms of wine. Opportunity cost of wine will be in terms of cheese. But if I extend this concept and say trade is between two countries producing n number of product by using one factor of production, तो अगर n number of product ले लिया तो suppose cheese is there, wine is there, apple is there, banana is there and so on, 5 product ले लिया. तो जब 5 प्रोडक्ट ले लेंगे तो चीज़ का अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट क्या होगा? फिर जब 2 था फिर इजी था, चीज़ का कॉस्ट वाइन में आ गया, वाइन का कॉस्ट चीज़ में एक्सप्रेस हो गया, कॉस्ट ऑफ वन एक्सप्रेस इन टर्म्स ऑफ द अदर. बट नाउ अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट ऑफ चीज़ विल बी sacrifice of all other goods. Cheese opportunity cost will be sacrifice of all other goods. Similarly, अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट ऑफ वाइन विल बी एक्सपेंस बाय द सैक्रिफाइस ऑफ ऑल अदर गुड्स। तो यहाँ पे जो ओल्ड कंसेप्ट है उसमें हम सारा लेबर थ्योरी के फॉर्म में एक्सप्लेन करते हैं। मतलब रिकार्डियन मॉडल बेसिकली इज लेबर थ्योरी ऑफ वैल्यू। व्हाट इज द वैल्यू ऑफ अ प्रोडक्ट? वैल्यू ऑफ अ प्रोडक्ट इज डिटरमाइंड बाय हाउ मच लेबर गोज टू प्रोड्यूस दैट प्रोडक्ट। हेबर्लर ने कंसेप्ट को थोड़ा वाइडन कर लिया, उसने उसको अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट में कन्वर्ट कर दिया। द कॉस्ट ऑफ वन गुड इन टर्म्स ऑफ अदर गुड्स दैट वी sacrifice. The value is not determined only by the labor that it goes to produce that output. The cost is determined by the cost in terms of all other goods that we sacrifice. So, when we discuss two product, वहाँ पे भी वो easy concept है. If home country has cost advantage in cheese, तो foreign country will have cost advantage in wine पे तो trade between home and foreign country is very clear. But if there are 5 product, then which product will be produced by home country, which product will be produced by the foreign country, we have to determine that. So although when the question comes on the Ricardian model, you have to explain the 2 by 2 by 1 model, but question can be applied that explain comparative cost advantage with many goods. So if there are many goods, then how we can calculate the comparative cost advantage. So that will be the next part for multiple good model. वो multiple good model के लिए हो जाता है। तो जनरली हमने अभी क्लास में एक्सप्लेन कर रखा वो फॉर 2 प्रोडक्ट है। 2 प्रोडक्ट इट वाज इजी, बट व्हेन वी मस्ट नो ऑल द क्वेश्चन आर नॉट बीन आस्क्ड, बट देयर इज अ केस फॉर n number of product also. So if there are multiple product, then how we can calculate the comparative cost. So we'll